Death, be not proud. Though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. Poor Death, one short sleep past we wake, eternally, and death shall be no more. Death, thou shalt die.
From Providence, Rhode Island, in the Minute with Mary studio, welcome to Outlander Cast. It's a podcast dedicated to the show Outlander on Stars.
Sing me a song of the last that is gone. Sacred at last may I, Mary of soul, she sailed on a day over the sea, turn sky.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back. My name is Mary Larson.
My name's Blake. I'm so glad that time travel is back. Mm-hmm. So glad that time travel is
So
back.
say we all, Blake.
Man,
so say we all.
I am in on the time travel.
Between the time travel and Jamie's dreams give us all the Outlander magic. Because, of course, we love the relationships. And, of course, we love the history.
Mm-hmm.
But when we get that little, time travel and just all the magic stuff woven in, oh, chef's kiss.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned this last episode, but I feel like we're getting back to what makes Outlander. But oddly enough, I think as great as that is, I think there are some things that we definitely have to have a conversation about.
Okay.
Mary. And for those who are watching us live or listening to us now, we are recording this a little bit early. So you're going to receive this on your podcast app
A little
early.
earlier than
And if
we
you're in the
normally would.
future, you're like, hey, whatever, I don't care.
You didn't even notice.
It's just not a big deal.
But it is our Independence Day weekend here in the
Yes.
United States.
Or for you English people, it's Happy Treason Day.
Oh, yes.
High
yes.
Treason Day.
High Treason Day. Of course, Rhode Island celebrates Independence Day a couple of months earlier. That's just because we're cool like that.
Yes.
I mean, we don't go full out.
It's the most Rhode
we
Island
know.
thing ever. It's like, no, it's our Independence Day. It's
May
before
4th.
yours. Yeah.
Yes. May the 4th be with you. You're welcome. From the treasonous state of Rhode Island.
Yes.
Anyway. Yes, so we're doing things a little differently, but of course we're here. We watched the episode as soon as it came out, like so many of you,
Yes.
Just refreshing your Stars app at midnight, or maybe you do it when you first wake up. And those of you lucky ducks who live in different time zones, you get it at actually times of day that won't make you a zombie
Right.
for a Friday. So good for you. All right, let's get into this episode. I'm so excited.
Yeah, you ready to do it?
I am.
All right, let's do it. If I could find that, here it is. All right, Marvin. All right. This is episode 703 of Outlander, entitled Death Be Not Proud, which is a reference to a John Donne poem that was written in the early 1600s. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And, well, you know what? Why not?
Let's do it.
Okay, sure. Why not? This is like I said, it's a poem written by John Donne, and what essentially is happening and what is written is that it's inverting the human fear of death in a mocking and ironic way by suggesting that death's reputation as all-powerful is a little overstated, if you will, that it's a little inflated. It's meant to address the personification of death. It talks about death's false pride, his unearned reputation, and his shortcomings. And it begins with the poem calling out death for what he believes is an inflated ego and an unearned reputation as all-powerful. He directly informs death that death cannot kill him. Linking the experience of sleep to death, he suggests that death is merely a long sleep. Since sleep is pleasurable, then there is no reason to believe that death would not be too. And the speaker goes to mention that the best men die young, achieving rest from the realms of the earth. He suggests that death is not all powerful, but actually dictated by random events, kings, and those desperate enough to murder or take their own lives. And further berating the personification of death, the speaker points out the type of undesirable company he keeps, which is poison, war, and sickness. And the speaker lists poppies and charms as things that can cause a peaceful sleep, which is better than what death can offer. And he asks death why he is so puffed up when he is, in fact, inadequate. And finally, death is but a short sleep before we wake eternally, which logically means that death then dies when the person awakes.
Ugh.
Yes, so that is the poem that Jamie recites. It is time appropriate, as it was written in the early 1600s. Just an interesting little tidbit. I like that. And that's why I played it at the top of the episode.
Fantastic.
The writer was Tyla English Beckwith. You absolutely have never heard of this woman before. I know you haven't, because this is her first episode of Outlander that she's ever written. And this is one of her only 3 credits to her entire career, which began in 2020. Her first credit, the thing that she's most famous for, Mary, ready for this?
Yep.
She wrote something called The Daughters of D.C. Now, The Daughters of D.C. is a unique project because it's a teen political thriller, which is a podcast produced by iHeartRadio.
Wow, that's a lot of things.
Yes. So it's interesting that this woman started her career as a writer for a podcast, and then she ended up writing a short film too. And then obviously now she got the Outlander job, which is great for her.
Yeah.
But if you're interested, yes, go check it out on your podcast app of choice, The Daughters of DC. And it's about girls in Washington DC and the whole thing. It's I haven't listened to it, but apparently it's good. The director was Jackie Gold. You probably don't know that name either, but she has directed a bunch of television shows dating all the way back, into the 90s, or at least participating in directing of television shows. Her directing credits, the most recent are that terrible show on CBS called Fire Country. She also directed episodes of Motherland, Day of the Dead, Van Helsing, and Charmed. That's interesting. She also was the second unit director on Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Interesting.
The limited series about Obi-Wan on Disney+. So as a second unit director, her job was to get action parts or stunts or let's say just scene setting places. That was her job for Obi-Wan Kenobi. Interesting, huh?
Very interesting.
All right, so that is it for the details. Marvin, what do you got for your kilt rating?
So, of course, at Mary and Blake Media, we love to rate episodes on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the absolute worst, 5 being the absolute best. And for each show, it's different. And of course, for Outlander, it needs to be the kilt rating. And can we just say the amount of kilts in this episode? Yes, thank you, Jamie. I'm so glad your kilt wasn't burned. This episode gets a 4.65 kilts from me.
Okay. All right. For me, I'm giving this a 409.
That is such a very particular. It couldn't just be a 4.1.
No.
It had to be a 4.09. Interesting, Blake. You're so nitpicky. I love you very much. So, of course, it's time for the GBGs.
Yes.
Our goods, our bads, and our greats. And I'm going to pivot this to you. Tell us yours first.
What?
I know.
We have a process.
I'm mixing it up. I want a sip of my seltzer. Take it away.
My goodness. You're messing everything up on me.
Go for it.
All right, cool. All right, so my good is the cutaway flashback to when Jamie stuck the when Jamie stuck the pole into the ground, mocking Fraser's Ridge, and then obviously referencing that with the carving and the tree, and then showing that again. For those of you who don't necessarily remember that that's what happened. It was just interesting to show that again and to give you context as to why that was being shown. And I just love those cutaway flashbacks because it gives context to the emotionality of what's occurring in a character at that moment.
Yes.
And what we're doing is we're referencing Claire's POV, right? Her memory of that situation, right? And that is a benefit of the television medium. You can only do that in film. You cannot do that in a book,
Yes.
right? And
It'd be like parentheses. Remember, reader, back when they first came to Fraser's Ridge?
so I really liked that, and it's great that it shows us the emotionality of what she's going through, and it's a great technique to use often for good editors and for good writers. My bad.
That's a growl.
It's just everything with the bugs. Every single thing with the bugs. Yeah. And listen, the episode was a little meandering. I felt like it was a little gratuitous with its objective to make you feel, especially with the funeral of Mrs. Bug. I didn't think it achieved the kind of emotionality that it wanted us to feel. Or at least certainly for me. But everything that comes out of the bugs feels forced. It feels shoehorned in, and it feels like we have another villain of the week.
Okay.
It feels like we have another Brown type situation, but instead of it being a Brown, it's just interchange, name with Bug.
Yeah.
And it feels like Bug is gonna,
I'll get you, my pretty.
yeah, like, and it's gonna be resolved by the end of the season, and it's just like, I just don't like what they're doing with that. Okay, but my great goes to David Arthur. Now,
David Arthur.
yeah.
David Arthur.
Your cousin from Boston.
David Arthur is the editor of this episode, and I got to tell you, the craft shown in the editing in this episode was spectacular. And you probably didn't even notice it because you're not supposed to.
Okay.
But I have to give David Arthur a lot of credit here, because I think what he does is takes a story that is, I think, clunky in this episode at best, and actually gives it some visual dynamic. And in particular, there are 3 scenes that I just absolutely need to call out, because it's visually tying in Roger and Bree's story with Claire and Jamie's story. And it's in these 3 particular scenes, it's okay, where I got it in my notes here. Okay, it's when the big house is burning, and then it crossfades to Roger and Bree in the future. And while it crossfades, in the same composition, in the same formation of the fire, it shows Roger and Bree being enveloped by the fire.
Wow.
Which is incredible. And then they discuss, as the scene begins, how they saved Jamie and Claire from the fire, right? So
Yes.
you're having this visual, like it's a match crossfade, right? And it's matching the composition of the shot, which is great. And then another scene is when Bree tells Roger she wants him to see Lallybrock on the couch, and the edit then dissolves or crossfades to Jamie and Claire sitting in the same exact spot in the frame.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, Roger and Bree were in like the mid to left portion of the frame. Crossfades, Jamie and Claire, same exact spot in
Love
the
it.
frame. Really cool. And the last scene that I thought was really cool is when Jamie and Claire are walking out of the barn after they talk to Lizzie and whatever the twins' names are. I can't remember.
Twins, the Beardsley twins.
The scene dissolves to the archway as Jamie and Claire are walking. It dissolves to the arch in Lallybrock.
Love it.
Which is important because Bree is looking out, and Roger then asks if she's looking for someone.
Very cool.
And
very
I
cool.
think this is really important because transitions are tantamount to telling a visual story. And without you don't see it, but your brain does, right? Yeah. And it's taking you through the story. It's significant because not only is it taking you through the story of Outlander, through the story of this episode, it's representative of the transition that this not only are the Frasers going through in this episode, but it's representative of the transition that the season is going through. Transitioning from the first 2 episodes, closing off season 6, now moving on to season 7 and everything that's coming that way.
Very cool.
So that was my great. I just thought the editing was spectacular.
Love
so
that.
That's that. What do you got for your
awesome?
grade? Oh, your
So
TBG.
my good is thank God Adso was alive. Thank God. All of us fur parents who are watching this episode saying, "Where's the wee chitty? Like where's the wee little one?" And of course, you know, when Claire gets told by Lizzie, "I'm sorry, we haven't been able to find him yet," she's like, "It's okay," but she's like holding it back. And then when she finds that little kitty in the woods, holding him, loving on him, telling him like, "You're gonna have the best time. Don't worry, Lizzie's still gonna give you milk." I loved that she broke down crying. She didn't cry for the humans. She didn't cry at Mrs. Bug's funeral.
No, not at all.
Claire is a cat woman. She loved that little kitty.
Crazy cat lady, Claire.
To which I wanted to say, why not bring him on the boat? Okay, he can eat some mice. He can help keep things clean. If you really love this little cat, bring him on over. He did look a little rough, okay? He could have used a little bath, but maybe it was just too much. All right, my bad. Same with you. Too much time on the bugs.
Yeah.
But also I feel like awkward for Ian because Ian was totally cool shooting Mr. Bug. He was like, arrow. Prum.
Yeah.
Would you have been this sad, Ian, if it was Mr. Bug who you murdered? I mean, you were just like so sad. You were beating yourself up. She took care of us. She kept our secret. Yeah, and she also just tried to shoot your uncle.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ian, like, let's work on this guilt. Would you have been fine it was Mr.? Is it because it was Mrs. Bug and she gave you like little cookies and stuff that you felt bad? I don't know. I just feel like he needs some help. And I'm so glad he's going to be taken care of by Jamie and Claire right now, going home and getting some love.
Yes.
And then my great is okay, I've got 2 parts of great.
Okay.
The real great is that we are on these 2 different time frames, and I loved their reading the letter and seeing Jamie and Claire write it and talk about what was happening. That was just really neat to feel in those 2 different time frames at the same time. But my "I'm going to ruin this episode for you" moment, great, is when Jamie and Claire are saying goodbye to Lizzie and the Beardsley twins. And little wee one's out in the field. "Oh, he learned how to walk and he came up on my skirt and now I'm pregnant again." And Jamie's like, "Oh, well, you know, this one's going to be taken care of with your wonderful family." And then if you look closely at Jamie's face, he realizes what he just said and he makes this face of like, "Oh my God, this family is really weird." And he like looks left and right and he's like, "Why did I just say that? Why did I just say like something really nice about your family? Because your family is wackadoodle." His face is priceless, and if you missed it, I'm telling you, you will laugh out loud watching his face in that very moment. It was so good. I recorded it. I actually recorded it off of my iPad because I'm like, I need to remember this moment forever.
Oh my goodness.
It's even better than the salty balls jar.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. The salty balls jar was a good one.
I know. But it was like so in your face,
Yeah.
and this one you won't notice unless you look at him. And it is brilliant. It is brilliant.
You know,
All right.
I also had this little niggling thing too that kept just digging at me. And so when Claire's talking about getting the soot out of her clothes, and they're talking about the whole thing, everyone was saying it was soot.
Yes.
It was very sooty.
Yes.
It ain't soot. It's soot.
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry that nagged you, Blake. So sorry
It's soot.
for other
Ain't
people's
soot.
accents getting in your way.
What are we doing?
All right. So before we get into the rest of the show and get into the analysis, we want to thank you so incredibly much for those of you who have hit that subscribe button in your podcast app. Even if you're listening to us on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, actually the best way to make sure you get the latest and greatest of our podcast episodes is in a podcast app, whether that's Apple Podcasts or Stitcher. We're on all of them. Just search Mary and Blake and Outlander and it will come up. Also, we love to be social, particularly in this season of Outlander. So make sure you're following us on Instagram and Facebook, as well as YouTube. Just search Mary and Blake. Give us a follow. And if you are on Facebook, we do have an exclusive Facebook community. Just search Mary and Blake. Look at the groups. We would love for you to come on and join and geek out with the rest of us.
All right. So Marvin, I got to get it out of the way.
Do it, baby. Do it.
All right. So the whole thing with Mrs. Bug getting offed Okay.
Getting shot with an arrow by Ian.
Yeah. Okay, great. She died. She was digging up the gold. I get all of that. What are we, like, why is Ian so torn up about this?
I mean, that's why I just said.
I know, but I have to talk this through.
Okay.
Right? Because it just doesn't make sense. I would understand if he had a specific relationship with Mrs. Bug, where she was like a mother figure to him, or if she was, if she took care of him while he was all depressed.
Now, mind you, she saw them and helped them bury Alan.
Yeah, but whatevs.
So that was important to him because she kept that secret.
Whatevs. That's nothing. That's just like, that's happenstance.
Obviously, we spend more time with Mrs. Bug in the books, but like we've always said, books is books, show is show. And I would agree with you. They did not build up a relationship between Ian and Mrs. Bug that warranted this amount of sadness and guilt when she was about to shoot your uncle.
Right. Like, and that's exactly my point. He's all torn up about this, but she literally shot at Jamie.
Yes.
And then everyone's like all upset about it. No. Like, what are we, like, within the show, it just doesn't make any sense. I have no idea what Mrs. Bug does in the book. I have no idea what kind of relationship they have in the book. And to be honest, I don't care. Because what they showed in the series is
it's not
nonsensical.
Enough. It's not enough for Ian to feel this guilt. When,
right.
Like I said, you kind of get the feeling that if it was Mr. Bug who he shot and murdered, he would not be having these same feelings. And to me, on the show, aside from Mrs. Bug helping bury Alan Christie, like, it's... You know what I mean? 6 of one, half dozen of another.
Sure.
So I agree with you on this. I think that you feel bad for Ian, but on the flip side, part of me is wondering, okay, can we just, instead of him being so sad about this, could it more also just be that Ian has had enough and he needs to go home? And I almost wish that Jamie would have added this layer because, mind you, Ian just killed Alan Christie. Mm-hmm. Ian just thought he was the father of a murdered child, of a woman who he slept with who was murdered. He's had a really bad go. He's killed a lot of people with his awesome ninja moves. So he's done a lot of killing and seen a lot of stuff. And so I almost wish that it was not just, oh, I'm really sad I killed Mrs. Bug. She fed me and took care of me and kept our secrets. I wish it was more, oh my gosh, I've killed so many people, even people that I know.
Yeah.
And this has gotten to be a lot and I need to work on myself. And I wish that Jamie could then say, not just like, oh, remember when I promised my sister? Remember the whole reason we're here in America?
Yeah.
Is because I promised my sister we would go rescue Ian.
Yes. And then we just
ended up Jamaica, ended up here. It's fine.
Whatevs, we're staying.
It's fine. Totally
years.
fine. You won't even recognize him. If he would say, Ian has gone through so much, and I can tell that it's weighing heavy on him, and I would love for him not to be around any more blood. Because he does say, Jamie acknowledges the war and says, if we don't leave now, we probably won't be able to leave. But I almost wished it was more of Ian has done so much killing already, and I can tell that it's bothering him, and I want to save him from any more bloodshed by his hands because I think it's really starting to affect him. And I think that would have made me feel better about it. And that would have made me feel like, okay, it's not just Mrs. Bug, it's the collective people that Ian has now killed now. Mm-hmm. Because Ian doesn't have the levity to balance things out in life. He's got a dog. But that's about it right now, okay? So
and I would actually buy into what you're saying, Mary, about all of this, if there was some kind of struggle that Ian had been was exhibiting, right? The guy had 0.0 problem killing Alan. And I understand it's a different situation.
Yeah, I mean, Alan himself was a murderer and killed this woman that Ian had some feelings for.
But let's just talk about Mrs. Bug. She had the intent of murdering Jamie. So,
or at least protecting herself so she could do something, right?
Right. Well, I mean, if she picked up a knife, that's I'm protecting myself. But she just straight up pointed a gun to Jamie and shot him. And she was lucky that she missed. Oh, she nicked him.
Yes.
So if there was a struggle that was shown from Ian about all of this, yes, I can buy it.
And so that's how in my inner monologue, that is what I'm building it up to be. Because, you don't want to have this whole thing about the episode really bring it down. Because it is an episode that I will gladly rewatch. There's a lot of parts about it, but I agree with you. And that's why I gave it a 4.6. It just felt like the Bug storyline didn't earn its time and weight through this television series, and that the impact that it made on Ian, it didn't seem to earn, in my opinion, through television.
Yeah.
So,
and then the last thing I want to say about it, and then we can move on. And then I would also buy it if it was just like Ian who was upset. Like he was torn up about it. What the problem is that the show itself it wants you to feel. I mean, we're talking about Claire singing Ave Maria. We're talking about conversations between Claire, and you just have to keep breathing.
And I need to point out, because we are going live, Angela Hickey says in the book, Mrs. Bug is like Mrs. Fitz for the family, and I would agree with that. And that's why I'm saying I think they did Mrs. Bug wrong. Because if this was Mrs. Fitz that, say, Jamie accidentally kills...
Yeah, that makes more sense.
We would feel it, right?
Yes.
Because we spent so much time with her, and and they had these extra special moments, and I just feel like they had Mrs. Bug on screen. And I just don't feel like she had the magic and she had the moments to really stand out to us the way that a character like Mrs. Fitz did. And yes, we have more time with her, but honestly, it wasn't that substantially more. I just don't think the character was written well to stand out, to make an impression upon us that we as the viewers would care, and that we would understand why Ian and Claire and everyone would be so upset.
Right. And like the other thing,
Claire would be upset if anybody
like
died.
the one thing that we got from Mrs. Bug is, okay, I'm going to help bury Alan for you. But it's not because, I love Claire and I love Ian. It was because Alan was a bad dude.
No, but also she had a hoe because she was digging up some chicken on her own dug up.
No, what I'm saying is the intention behind her helping, right? If this was written a little bit differently, like prior to, where it was she was helping out of the goodness of her heart for something because she cared about Ian specifically. Mm-hmm. And that was representative of his relationship to her. Mm-hmm. Okay, like I get it. Like now we're talking.
Even in that last episode, could have been one more thing where she just puts her hand on him and says, "I know that Malva's death really shook you, and I want to help you." Yes. Exactly. Like give me just something. But I do think that that's why they went wrong. And honestly, that's why I gave it a 4.6.
Yeah, and that's why when the funeral is taking place and everything is happening and everyone's so upset, it's like, we're going to put all the sad music. We're gonna make Kat
sing.
We're gonna make Kat sing. We're gonna do, because we are absolutely going to make you feel bad.
Okay, can we move on from this?
Yes.
Because there's still some things about the bugs that I do want to talk about, but now that we got it off our chest, we're okay. I do want to get about the bugs, because when Jamie sits down, he kind of figures things out a little bit, and he says, like, tell me what happened. We get, of course, a mention of Dougal. We get Dougal took some of it, and then Hector took some of it, and this is obviously the lost Jacobite gold, and he says, like, I don't know what Dougal did with it. And so, I want to make sure that everything was okay. And so Jamie gives him the gold, and he says, okay, your oath is free to me. And then he goes over to Mrs. Bug, and they have this moment where he's like, I can't believe these people. And she's like, me neither, man. We were like their servants for all this time, took care of all their crap, but now it's our time. And I had a moment where I was like, they're going to get the gold, and they're going to go find Michael Mouse. Because what would you do, right? You get all this money, it's like, screw it, we're going to Disneyland. We are taking the family trip. Not only are we going to go to Disney World, but we're going to go on a Disney cruise. And that's what I felt like Mrs. Bug was saying. She's like, our time is done with these people. It is our time to go on an all expenses paid vacation. I heard about some Michael Mouse. Like, we are doing this. And so I was excited for them for that, like, 2 minutes when you think, like, okay, let's see what you do. Let's see what you do when you have all this money to burn.
Yeah. Hold on. Wait. Yeah. You mentioned something.
Michael Mouse?
No, that just, it like, I just thought of this.
Okay.
So, ideally, in the lost Jacobite gold.
Yes. It was divvied up between 3.
It arrived, from the logic of the show, it arrived too late. It arrived after the Bonnie Prince had left Scotland, right? After the Battle of Culloden.
Mm-hmm. It couldn't help make an impact.
But the problem is Dougal died before the Battle of Culloden. Jaime and Claire killed him. How could Dougal have been there to receive the gold
Good question.
after the Battle of Culloden?
I mean, I need to double check on the dates because I don't know exactly when it was there, but when it arrived, it wasn't enough. It wasn't able to like do what it needed to do.
Right.
So maybe it got there like right before. I don't know. I have to double check.
Yeah, I don't know. But I could be wrong. If there are nerds out there that know better than me, fine, I'll
Okay.
take it. But
But you want to know the date of when like this gold arrived versus Culloden?
yeah, just by the logic of the show,
Okay.
from what I recall, it arrives
Okay.
after Culloden.
I'm just saying it's nice to have the Dougal mention in here.
Okay.
I love seeing old people's names from the series because you never know.
Sure, yeah.
You never know what you're going to get. Maybe it's a Frank's clarinet theme. Maybe
Could be
it's
a
a
box
mention
of
of
chocolates.
Dougal. Maybe he went to Disney. We have no idea. When Bathilda was dead, she looked like no Bathilda. When Mrs. Bug looked at, she looked like Bathilda Bagshot.
You're a wizard, Harry.
She looked like Bathilda Bagshot.
Yes, she did. Yes, totally.
Absolutely crazy. And then obviously like I understand why Claire is sad. And then Mr. Bug comes out of the woods and asks Claire to sing. Talk about weird.
Yeah.
Talk about awkward.
It just none of it makes sense, to be honest. None of it. It's all
no,
crafted.
I'm just saying like don't worry about the
Yeah.
makes sense part. I'm just talking plot line. Katrina Balfe's voice was so low.
Yes.
Like it was so low and I'm like, oh hey alto, look at you girlfriend. And then of course Ian has a super awkward like, hey, I'm sorry I killed your wife, but I wanted him to say, I'm sorry I killed your wife, I actually meant to kill you, because what an awkward conversation.
Yeah.
You know, like, hey, I'm sorry, we should have a life for a life, but like Mr. Bug could have been like, buddy, I know you were just trying to kill me. This is so weird. And he says, I don't want your dog,
Yeah.
but watch your back. When you
Hide
have
your
something
kids,
you care about,
hide your wife.
It's like the witch or Rumpelstiltskin. You know, it's those
Yeah.
kind of things. It's like, I'm gonna get you. And I know that you're saying, okay, it's the bad guy of the week, but I'm
It
kind of
is.
here
I
for
mean, it is. It is. I feel like the show had something really good going for it when it came to the revolution and the natural storyline of what's going to occur.
And we will have that
with
Don't
Lord
you worry.
John, and you
Dinner
know
Fash.
something's going to happen with William. But it's just like adding this other element that I feel was shoehorned in because of the book.
What is funny, and you didn't get this because when we watched it, we didn't see the like previously on Outlander. I don't think you watched the previously.
No.
But they show like way long ago Jocasta and her husband with the gold.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they like show these recaps of it. And it's funny because like when they do these previously on Outlanders, I mean, we've now been here for pretty much a decade.
Yeah.
So I understand that they do need to remind people, especially if they haven't done a big rewatch. But yeah, I thought that was kind of funny to be like, no, this is a plot line that we are still carrying on and talking about. So, all right. So we've got the bugs. We're all done. She's buried.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Goodbye.
Let's talk about modern day Scotland, which of course is where we start the show. We see this delivery van. It is actually the Great North Delivery Service.
Oh, look at you.
And they have this beautiful fancy box for Jemmy. All I could think of is this the Scottish Amazon Prime? And when it pulls up, is Roger like, Bree, another delivery?
Another box.
How many do we get per week?
This isn't the Larson household in Rhode Island, okay? Friggin' delivery guy
Does
knows
anybody
me
else
by
feel
name.
like they get Amazon delivery boxes to their house?
Blake, your wife got something else. Tell her to. She must be wearing out her phone screen.
Oh my gosh. Well, then speaking of phone, the opening card is Jemmy picking up a green phone.
Yes.
And this is where we need to talk about Jamie's dream.
Yeah. All right. How is it? How is it that nobody, especially Claire, is like, Jamie, you're having these dreams, but not only that, you just described a telephone to me.
Yep.
Something of which you have no concept.
And you knew Fiona's name,
And
so like
you
this is
freaking-
legit.
You took the thunder out of my argument
Oh.
here. You knew an actual person and her actual name that's living 200 actual years later.
Yeah.
This should be Like, the news of the freaking century.
And I mean, we got Bree last episode saying, "You're magical to me." But it wasn't even the context of the fact that he has these magical dreams.
Yeah.
It was just like, "Dad, I love you this much, that you're magical to me. And the fact I get to meet you and see you."
Yeah.
But exactly, Claire just kind of rolls over.
She's
Did
like,
this
"Oh."
person have a name? Fiona, wow. Were they happy? Yes. And Mandy seemed well.
And that was it.
Great.
No, like, hey,
Claire-
whoa, time out. Wait a second.
Because it's one thing, the electric light, right? The
Yeah,
electric
like, I get
light,
that.
it's not like he described an exact thing where she was like, holy smokes, yes, that really happened. It was more just, oh, Jamie, you're
Yeah,
so
it's a
cute with your
concept.
imagination.
It's a concept.
Exactly. Like maybe, but like whatever. This is serious.
This is a...
Okay? This is Jamie saying, she told me she can hear it. This is this level, and these people are just...
Yeah.
I would have expected Claire's face to be Jamie's face when he references the Beardsley family. What? You're Fiona? Telephone?
Yeah. Like,
She just rolls over and rolls with it.
it was like he said, the Red Sox won today. Like,
And if this was what
Oh,
Jamie
yeah.
did once a month, you know, if he just was like, Claire, I saw an airplane, I saw this, I saw that. Like, if it was regular,
Sure.
we'd understand Claire being so nonchalant.
yeah.
But instead, she's just doing like, it's like Morse code. Are they happy? Great, wonderful.
Good, yeah.
Sorry, we can't
Hey,
call
you want
back.
a cup of coffee while
Do you
I'm
want
at
to
it?
like talk to them through your dream for me? Because that'd be great.
I'm going to head out, do some errands. You want some Dunkin' on the way back?
Claire, have a little bit more excitement for at least us as the show watchers.
I
don't know if they're doing this on purpose to downplay it, just like with Jemmy just saying, oh, she can hear it too, I heard her. Like, aside, they just kind of like sweep it a little away. And I don't know if they're doing that so that way it can be a bigger thing and they can call back to it. Ooh, remember Jamie's dreams. Remember Jemmy said this, and we're supposed to like forget, but we're not forgetting.
No, how can you forget? And if that is what they're trying to do,
The characters should be reacting
Yeah.
a little bit more.
like, if that's what they're trying to do, to sweep it under the rug so that you forget, number one, that's just poor judgment. And then number two, it's horrible execution.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if Jamie had said something in passing,
He had said something about Brianna's birthmark. He had said that like way back when.
Yeah.
So that was an odd thing. So that stood out. And then we have the electric thing, but once again, there's nothing
it's just a concept.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like
there's
it's nothing
nothing
specific,
specific. Yep.
about it, and we know that it's not her brushing her hair because that was candlelight.
Correct.
So we've got the birthmark, and now we've got telephone time. But she's still not having any reactions. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, am I supposed to believe that he's just doing this all the time and she's used to it?
Yeah.
Because if so, we're not on that journey. Or just Claire, give a little like, wow, Jamie, oh my God. You've got some cool dream powers.
yeah.
I've got
this is
time travel powers. You've got dream powers.
This is a big deal. And, like, here's the thing. If it is what you were saying, like, oh, we're going to sweep this under the rug, if Jamie had
Not
said
sweep it under the rug, but kind of like leave a
just-
little breadcrumb
we're gonna-
trail.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
maybe,
like,
maybe people pick it
people
up.
are going to pick up on
Book
it or
readers
whatever.
know what's going on.
Like, if we were with Claire and you heard Jamie in the background say, oh, I had this dream, but like she was brushing her hair.
Yes.
And she'd be like, what? And
She'd be like, sorrow's purse, yep.
yeah, or if she truly didn't hear him.
Exactly.
And,
yes.
and she was like, what? And he said, no, never mind.
Yes.
Like, okay,
Yes.
I'm in.
Yes.
But these two are just treating it like it's the freaking Sunday paper. Like, I don't know.
And I felt the same way about the Jemmy thing. And so that's why I'm just like, okay.
But I could even
I
make
don't
an
know
excuse
why.
for the Jemmy thing, though. I can.
Because he's little.
He's a kid.
Yeah.
Kids say weird things
Yeah.
all the
Imaginary
time.
friends,
Yeah.
like whatever. Perfect.
If you ever watch Drop Dead Fred, you know what I'm talking about. Like, you Drop Dead Fred, folks, you get it. Kids are weird.
Speaking of Jemmy, as he was outside with Fiona's kids and he's kicking the soccer ball around, I was thinking also about how he must be talking to them. Now, in the show, he's younger than what he would have been in the books. But so it's perfect because in the show, he could be like, oh, yes, I had a horse and this is all different. We didn't have electricity and we didn't have telephones. Like, he could say all that and the other kids would be like, whatever, this guy's so young. He's just blubber blathering and it would be fine.
Sure.
But I love that, like, I wonder if Roger and Bree, because they don't show anything, like, he just adjusts. It's like, okay, he's so
Yeah.
little, nobody will care.
Whatevs. But I will say this. I am really enjoying Roger and Bree being in the future.
Me too.
I think it gives the narrative some actual heft to what they're doing.
Yes.
And then obviously tying them to the past with the letters, Back to the Future 3 style, right?
Yes.
It's great. It's great because it's a cool device.
This box, which has been locked up for 200 years.
Yes.
And Fiona's like, I'm pumped you're back because there's something here for you.
Yeah, right?
Thanks, Fiona.
It was almost a word-for-word remake of Back to the Future 3, where it was like, yeah, Mr. McFly, yeah, we've had a bet. It's been sitting here for 100 years. We were wondering where this was going to go or if somebody was going to show up.
And of course, Mandy's well, so we just don't have to deal with any of the surgery, anything like that. Just time has passed. Mandy is well. All is good. And another one of my favorite little yummy moments was when the box was opening and Roger's helping pry it open. And then as Bree and he open it, Roger has the sweetest smile.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, the history part of him is geeking out because he's
I know.
Letters, paper, handwritten things. It's wicked old. Oh my gosh, can you smell the old paper? Because you know how old paper has its own smell?
Old paper has the best smell.
That's what I think happened. I think it came open and it was like the best perfume he'd ever smelled in his life. And of course, we've got the gold ball, which looks like a musket ball. How cool was that?
That was
they
cool.
knew, okay, we want to transport and take care of some of this gold.
Yes.
So we're going to melt this puppy down and then they give them one.
I like that. And again, it's just another cute tie-in to what they're doing. I will say that Bree choosing to not... Well, does Bree choosing to not read the letters feel like somewhat of a narrative cop-out to be like, we can't let all these things go because if we do... The most natural thing for her to do is be like, I want to read all of this. And I get the reasoning that she says where it's like...
No, I think that would be Bree.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah.
But you think Roger's just champing at the bit?
I know.
We gotta read it. What are you talking about?
I feel like Roger would be like, let me all in, but that would be Bree savoring it, and especially the emotionality because when it's done, it's done. So I'm all about that.
Yeah.
And of course, when Roger freaks out, says it was your bloody matches. You burned the house down. You and your mother. And I loved how he said the 18th century is lucky to have survived you.
That is that. I think that might be the first funny thing that Roger's ever said.
In your opinion, but because others will disagree. I will disagree.
It's my opinion matters most.
Oh my God. I loved that. And of course now they're excited because they're like, we changed history. So here we are talking about history in Outlander again. Can it be changed? Can you go back and truly change things? Or is that how it always was? Because as Claire and Jamie say when they're watching the house burn down, it's not January.
Yeah.
We're also not dead. And Claire says, newspapers get stuff wrong all the time.
Yeah, right.
So...
And then Bree makes this big claim, we actually changed history. We actually did it.
Why is it a big claim? Because they think they did. They read that the parents died in a fire, and now Roger's saying there's no fire to be.
Sorry, I don't mean it that way.
Okay.
I meant it holy smokes, this is a big claim. We changed history. I'm not saying, Bree is just making it up and, it's just, this again, it's another big revelation.
Yes.
My sense is that Bree is wrong, that they did not change history. And I have that sense because everything has gone according to the way that it should have so far. And if they had changed history, then there would be a vastly different result for many things, right? So going back to Lost, it's what happens. What happened. But then are you taking the Lost idea or are you taking the...
I mean, this is one of the things that's
future.
Fun to talk about when it comes to Outlander, in which Jamie and Claire, of course, have talked about multiple times. And if Bree was able to talk with them at this moment, Claire would be like, oh, honey, it's just that this is how it always was. We've tried this before.
Yeah.
This is. You were meant to come. You were meant to make matches.
Right.
It'd have kind of those conversations.
Actually, I want to say this. Renee here on Facebook says, but Claire shouldn't be in the past. No, that's wrong. Claire has always gone to the past. That's how time works.
In Outlander.
Yes, in Outlander. But I mean, I ostensibly, that's how time works, right? If you were to go to... If humans were capable of time traveling, right?
in Outlander verse.
No, but just in general.
No, but like
the theory of time, right? If even in general, if humans were capable of time traveling, time is linear, right? So if you went back, you're always going back. That was part of your history. Like no matter what. It doesn't matter if you are meant to go, not to go. She went back. That's what happened.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I
think it's fun, and I think it's fun how they talk about it and how we all don't know because it's not real. So we just get to kind of like make it up as we go along, and they get to each have their own experiences with it. Speaking of Bree and Roger, fun little fact. It seems like Jamie and Claire are wearing Bree and Roger's clothes later in the episode. So if you can see some frames about the different things that they would have been wearing. And of course it would make sense, right? Because now they're staying in their house. Interesting that they didn't like give the house to somebody else right away in the show.
Yeah.
And so like, oh, hey, Ian, or hey, Lizzie, like, you got this free house. You could take it. So thank goodness it was there.
Well, technically, Ian owns all the land that Roger gave him. So I think Ian's fine. I mean, technically.
but was he excited?
We're just going to whistle past that graveyard.
It's like when the oldest kid leaves your house and you're like, yes, they went to college. I get the big bedroom. But then they're like, oh, I quit after a semester. I'm coming back. No.
All right, before we continue, we got to thank our partners over at WeBox.
WeBox, of course, is the monthly subscription that you're hearing us talk about so frequently on Outlander Cast because we absolutely love it. It's designed to share Scotland and Scots with Scots at heart, all aspects of Scotland with people who are Scottish, or if you just love Scottish stuff from all around the world.
Scottish poser, like most of us Outlander nerds.
I'm not. So every WeBox is carefully curated around a monthly theme with 5 bunny gifts and treats, which are often exclusive or can't be bought outside Scotland. It's a great value. There's a free magazine written with Scotland's top journalists, a free exclusive virtual tour with internet sensation Andy the Highlander, plus a soundtrack to listen to as you unbox and use your gifts. And the contents are worth so much more than what you pay for. It supports local Scottish businesses, craftsmanship, and its environment and charities too. And because we love it so much, we do have a coupon code. Friends, this is what you should treat yourself on. I'm telling you, if you love Outlander, if you love Scotland, if you have someone in your life who does, you want to go to webox.com. Oh, webox.co.uk.
Yep.
Once it again, WeBox, so it's WEEBOX.co.uk, and use the code CAST10 for 10% off at checkout. We love especially the treats that come.
Oh, we were talking about this in the Listen to Feedback
the
episode.
Loch Ness
I still got it.
spiced ginger snaps cookies that we just got in a recent
We're going to switch
one.
the camera again.
These are so good.
These things are ridiculous.
And it's funny because some of our friends, some of our listeners did get this recent WeBox in with these cookies, and after you and I were talking about them so much on the After Dark episode, they went and tried theirs, and they were like, you guys weren't kidding.
I know.
You weren't kidding. So I'm telling you, there is a beautiful just thrill that you're going to get getting something shipped from Scotland. What's not to love?
And those spiced ginger cookies, you were right, Mary. It's got a zing. It's got a total zing.
I know.
Oh, love the zing.
I know. I'm total huge fan. Huge fan. All right. So speaking about Jamie and Claire needing new clothes, the explosion when they were standing in front of the house, because, you know, they revisited the scene with Wendigo Donner and the match, the explosion of them leaving and the actual house burning down makes up for the fact that I think the CGI explosion from last week's episode was
Agreed.
Okay?
Agreed.
So good. Absolutely beautiful work. The fire burning down. You could just feel the heat radiating off this building, and the viewpoint when Jamie's outside looking into the window and just seeing his home truly burned down. They're all trying to save it. It was unbelievable. And of course, Fraser's Ridge theme is playing throughout it, but there's these sad, like, hesitant moments, and it's like a solo violin that occasionally is like almost crying through this theme. And when he says, okay, it's enough, we're done, it morphs because Fraser's Ridge, the house at least, is now gone. I just thought it was a beautiful use of the theme musically. And also I just need to give a shout out because of the fire. So here we are. We've got the bodies inside of Wendigo Donner and his buds.
Yes.
Who takes them out? Do they just leave them there?
Maybe if they showed Mrs. Bug doing it, I would have cared about them more.
Clean up this mess. Clean up this mess.
Clean up on Isle Fraser.
But the burning of the house was really sad to see. And we've actually have a couple of friends, but particularly a very close friend of ours who we met through Outlander, and her family house had burned down.
Yes.
So they just got to move back in after a couple of years of having to be out of it. And just the pain that you hear. And if any listeners, you too have had your house burned down, like, you know, it's just, it hits you in a very deep and intimate way.
Yeah.
And I think they captured that beautifully on screen.
Yeah, I love when Jamie was just, when you see it in his eyes when he looks up and he just realizes, no, that's
Gotta call it.
We're calling it. Like, everyone stop. And they just watch it burn. And again, it goes back to the editing because there's this, you know, there's this race to try to get the water and everything. And then once that race is called by Jamie, now what we're doing is we're doing crossfades. We're doing we're showing the course of events over a period of time. They're not jump cuts, but they're crossfades, which again, you don't recognize it, but your brain does.
Yes.
This is showing you that the whole thing is progressing, and how the fire is continuing to consume the entire house.
And then, of course, we go through the cleanup. Claire's book is saved, thank goodness gracious.
Yes.
But even more so, let us just thank Jamie Fraser for all of his praying, because God looked out for him, because his kilt survived.
That fireproof box, I don't know what it's made out of.
But I actually think that this is his main reason that he's going to Scotland, because it smells a little bit like soot. And so he needs a new, fresh new one. You know? Yeah. Oh, shoot. And you know what? You know what excuse I can give? Ian. I'm supposed to bring him back too. So I need a new kilt that doesn't smell a little smoky.
Kill two birds with one stone.
Exactly. And his spectacles somehow survived.
You know what?
So in one 30-second bit, you get spectacle Jamie and kilt wearing Jenny, and he wears his kilt for the rest of the episode. At least for a good chunk of the episode,
Yeah.
we got
Yep.
kilted Jamie.
That was well earned and well deserved for all of us. Kilted, bespectacled Jamie.
Yes.
It's just too much for mankind.
And of course, Willie's picture is found by Ian, and Ian outs Jamie.
Oh, yeah.
Hey. Yeah. Takes a Fraser to see a Fraser, and I saw a wee Fraser.
Yeah.
Reminded me of my mom and you.
Oh, man.
But don't worry, I won't say anything.
Yeah.
But really freaking cool that I got another cousin.
Yeah.
Not from Boston, but wants to go to Boston.
Why do you think he waited all this time to tell him?
Ian's deep like that, and I think
Yeah.
he's been waiting for Jamie to tell him. You know, Jamie talked with him about faith, and he opened up to Jamie about losing his bairn, and I honestly think he's been waiting for Jamie to tell him. And here he is. Hey, I found this. You must be proud. Like, leaving the door
right.
open. Are you going to say it? Because you guys already told me you're time travelers.
Yeah, so you might as well.
Like, why hide secrets, Uncle Jamie? Why hide secrets at this point? So
man.
I'm proud of him for just standing up and being like,
and just doing it.
I'm not an idiot.
It's totally something you would do.
Yes.
Totally. But you wouldn't have kept the secret all that long. It would have
No,
been.
I might have.
No, you wouldn't have.
You know what I
No,
want
you
to see?
wouldn't
I
have.
want to see how many like softballs, like underhand tosses Ian gave him. Like, oh man, would have been nice to have a son. What would you have named Brianna if she was a boy?
And then it zooms in on his face real quick. Like, it'd be like an Austin Powers movie.
Oh, I wonder if my mom and dad have had more kids. I wonder how many of the Frasers there are out there. Huh? But I did love where he said you need Fraser blood to see it in him.
Yeah, yeah. One of the I had mentioned, Mary, the craft in this episode. I would say that the writing, especially for dialogue, and how they were forcing you to feel was, I don't think it was good.
All across the episode?
I would say for a lot of the episode, I felt that it was.
Was this because it was with people who you don't care about? We spent a lot of time with the Bugs. We spent time with the Beardsleys. Like,
Yeah.
you know, did you feel
like,
it
I
between
don't care
Ian and
that-
Jamie? Did you feel it between Claire and Jamie? And did you feel it between Claire and Ian when she's like, "Can you breathe?"
No, I didn't feel that because it felt.
Because I loved
felt
that because it reminded me.
disconnected.
She asks her, "Are you breathing, Ian?" That's all you have to do for now. And I loved that because Claire needed to be like that when she came back after her extremely traumatic experience, and all she could do was breathing. And that's what it reminded me of.
Yes, but that
She was seeing darkness and despair.
The dialogue is contingent upon the context, and the context isn't there, right? So that again, that's part and parcel to the writing. And I don't care that this lady's a new writer. Like whatever, we talked about Danielle Barrow, right? Last season, she was brand new, and she knocked it out of the park, right? It has nothing to do with how much experience or not any experience a writer has to me.
Yeah.
Either you got it or you don't. My whole point in saying all of this is this. The craft in this episode, outside of the writing, in my opinion, is spectacular. I've talked about the editing, but I also want to talk about the directing from Jackie Gould,
Okay.
and the framing that she uses to give us a visual story, right? And I noticed this.
Because I want you to know, I disagree with you. I think the writing for the relationships of the core characters was very good.
I will say that I loved the scene between the writing and the dialogue between Jamie and Claire.
About
at
being
the
buried?
end. No, no, at the end.
But how'd you feel about the buried thing?
Well, because
See?
that also has to do with what I think is poor writing, but I'm going to talk about that in a little bit.
Okay. I'm like, I had all these feels.
But I think the directing was phenomenal, and
Agreed.
I noticed it right away because there's throughout the episode, as I had mentioned with the edits, it's all about transitions, and it's all about how we're moving from one scene to the next, and how we're connecting storylines visually, even though they're separated by 200 years.
Okay.
Right? In addition to that, just the editing, we also have framing within the camera. And that framing or the composition within the camera is really important in what they're showing and how they're showing it. And I noticed it right in the beginning when Jamie is sitting in the burned house. After this is all said and done, he and Claire are talking on the steps. And then there's also that shot that we saw in the trailer that we made fun of, like the preview, where Jamie is sitting in the doorway and by Ian's walking away. Doorways and thresholds are playing a massive role in this episode, right? Not only do we have the box being a doorway to the past, opening up the box, it's a doorway to the letters, to their parents. We have the archway that's shown multiple times. We have the burned house that's shown. Claire is actually framed by the barn door, by the opening, as she cleans the clothes. As the suit, Roger and Bree looking through a window at not Culloden, stupid Lallybrock.
Not stupid.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The funeral procession was actually going through the threshold of the cemetery. Even Jamie and Claire are overlooking Fraser's Ridge when they're plotting their new plot of land for their new house.
Yes.
Where they're looking and how it's been filmed, it's actually framed as a threshold by the trees that surround them looking out. It is phenomenal. And thresholds are really important because they use thresholds as a visual device to tell you about progression. We are moving forward. We are moving beyond. I really love the composition of what they tried to accomplish visually. And I don't know if that was part of the intent, because it all stood out to me a lot.
I would say yes.
I would say yes too.
Because think about it, thresholds are when you're coming and going, and this episode is all about that. Where are we going? Are we going back to Boston? Are we going to Lallybrock? Are we going back to Scotland? Like, it's all transition, just like what you're saying. So I'm here for it. I think it was completely on purpose.
Yep, totally. All right. Do you want to talk about
The parsnip soup?
yeah, if you want to talk about parsnip soup, I'm good.
I don't.
All right, what do you want to talk about next? Because we're at an hour.
When they are looking, when you were just talking about the shot when Jamie and Claire are saying where we're going to build our new house, and he talks about that and where you like to be buried. Loved that entire conversation. Just leave me out for the crows. And Claire's saying, you never asked me where I want to be buried. And he's like, yeah, because that's not going to happen. You can't die. You can't die before me. Sorry. No, no, thank you.
Yeah.
But as that goes on, and he says, we're actually not going to be here when we start building the house because we're going to head on over to Scotland. The Skyboat song starts to play.
Oh, interesting. Yes. I didn't catch that.
Yes.
Great.
And
pick.
as they're walking back and he's explaining why we need to go back to Scotland, I made this promise. It's the Skyboat song. And I just thought it was so incredibly cool to be going over sea to sky, heading on over.
Great pull, Mary. Great pull.
So just enjoy that. Jamie, of course, is praying again in this episode. And so we referenced that several times. And I loved how the Jamie and Claire theme is playing, which we're so used to hearing it when they're being intimate. And yet this is an intimate moment of Claire listening to Jamie as he's opening his heart up, saying he doesn't feel like he's enough. And he lays down next to her and he puts his hand on her shoulder. And I just thought, what a beautiful moment, because this is intimacy between them, that she's just sitting there knowing I'm not going to roll over and let him know I've been awake during this, that this is his special moment. And I just loved that.
It's the show using restraint when it could have gone the whole route of her leaning over and, and then again, the easy button is sex.
Or just saying right now, of course you're enough, Jamie.
Right.
You don't need God to tell you that. I got you here. Like, no, it's beautiful the way that was. And then how she does tell him later, you are enough, is beautiful. However, we did get something that stood out a little awkwardly. Claire getting her new blade.
Chekhov's knife over here.
Blake's like, guess she's going to need to use that soon.
Yeah.
It reminded me, however, when she got her first blade in season 1 and the whole bit of her learning how to use it and where to strike somebody so it doesn't hit a rib, and you make sure you get the place to. It brought back a lot of memories of her getting her first blade,
and that's probably by design.
and I loved that, and she's like, it fits my hand, and I put so romantic, vomit.
Especially when you're pricking the blood.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly.
Blood of my
it
blood.
Went from thanks for giving me a blade, and I know that this is romantic to them, and I know that it's going to be important, but then then there was blood. Blake, if you ever give me a specially made blade and you expect me to have the reaction that Claire had, and then you ask me to cut myself, goodbye. I mean, I won't leave you for good, but I'm just leaving the room.
So
Thank you very much.
I say Chekhov's knife because the literary tool that I'm referring to is Chekhov's gun, right? And Chekhov's gun is when it's when you see like a gun hanging on a wall in the first act of a film or of an episode. If you introduce something like that, like a gun, you have to know that gun is going to go off in the third act, right? Like that's the whole point. And if as we say, it's a Mary and Blake Media commandment. Everything that is on your film, everything that is in your story has to be relevant. If it's not relevant, it should not be in it.
Yeah.
So we all know that this blade isn't just for funsies. She's going to end up using it again sometime soon.
Just like another Chekhov's gun, I guess you could say, is the gold. So here we have the gold that Jamie melts and then puts it in the Spaniard's cave that only Jemmy knows where it is. That's a lot of faith in a wee lad.
Yeah.
A lot of faith. So in the books, he's supposed to be like kindergarten age, sure. Somewhere around like the 5-6 age. Okay. This gem looks like 4.
Yes.
At least the way he acts.
Well, the way that they're presenting him, it feels like he's that age.
He seems much younger, like a 3 to 4. And so I'm like, Jamie, that's a lot of faith. Unless you went on a walk to the Spaniard's cave multiple times, that's a lot of pressure to put on a little kid when you're hiding gold. Okay, it's not just like, oh, there's this really cool spot with a skeleton.
Yeah.
But the Jacobite gold. And of course, Roger figures out this kind of little riddle, about the Italian guy.
Correct.
And of course, there's a need.
Now we got a need.
Now that we have Lally-Rock.
Once that real estate agent showed up, she's like, "Ooh, we got some buyers. Oh, that sign must have fallen. Did you know that the rates right now are really low?"
I was mad because she blocked him in. She pulled up right behind them.
Of course she did. She got to get the sale.
She's like, come on. Oh, you're looking at this? Let me pick this up. The Camerons. Hey, you know?
Oh, man. I have some outlandish theories of the week.
Put it on down, Blake. Let's do it.
Are we gonna do it right now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Here we go. Where's my outlandish theory of the week? Here it is. All right. So I have a couple, and I brought it up because one of them has to do with Jemmy.
Nice.
And then I'll just give you the next one. Okay. Listen, it's not a coincidence that Jamie told Jemmy about this thing. Like
The cave?
The cave.
The Spaniards' cave.
Yeah.
They found it together.
Right. It's like,
And it was a secret just for the two of them.
right, but it's not a coincidence that Jamie writes, "Hey, Jemmy knows where this thing is." And it's not just because of Roger and Bree.
Okay.
It's because something is going to happen with Jemmy. Like, this is not just, oh, yay, Indiana Jones, we're going to go find it. It's like, no, something is going to happen because Jemmy knows where this gold is.
Oh.
And something's going to happen to Jemmy. I don't know what it is.
He's so wee. He's a wee little one.
I don't know what it is. Or I don't know. Like, maybe Roger brings him when they're trying to, and he gets hurt. I don't know.
Okay. It's funny to me because you think about how much traveling this family has done when they landed in Ocracoke. Then presumably Mandy gets surgery in Boston.
Yes.
Okay. Then they go to Scotland to go see Fiona.
And somehow they had enough money or insurance to go get.
Because there wasn't insurance on the house when it burned down. So it's not like they got that claims check.
Right.
So, yeah, they had enough money to get from Ocracoke to Boston, from Boston to Scotland.
Yeah.
And now they're like, oh, yeah, now we're going to go back to Boston. But first, now we need to stop in North Carolina to go
Right.
find the Spaniards' cave. So, yeah, they're doing a lot of
A
traveling.
lot of
right
traveling.
now.
I don't know how they got.
Maybe it was Frank and Claire's Disneyland budget that they set aside to go to California every year.
Because God knows how long they've been out. By the way, I have another outlandish theory of the week, too.
What do you mean God knows how long they've been out?
Well, God knows how long they've been away from all the, like...
Roger and Bree?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, how do they have anything? Like, they just showed up with a freaking tricorn hat
Okay.
and 2 kids. Like, that's all you got.
No, I mean, Claire, like, Bree had some stuff.
Sure, but, like...
They were taken care of, but I'm just saying how to access that when you're in
Right.
North Carolina.
Yeah, I'm just... It's a lot. It's a lot to accept.
It
but
is.
Whatever. Here's... What?
It's a lot to accept.
This when we're talking about a show about people who travel through stones.
I know, that's why I'm laughing. But okay, so your outlandish theory is that this isn't good that Jemmy knows where
Yeah.
potentially gold is, even though and Bree makes it very clear. Jemmy doesn't know about gold.
Right.
He knows about a Spaniard thing.
Yes, he knows the place where this thing is, but he doesn't know what the thing is, right? And that's why it's going to make it even more difficult, right? Because either something happens to him when he's with Roger and they're trying to go get it, and like maybe he travels back in time by accident, right? Like maybe I don't know, but something happens to this kid. Or maybe he gets endangered by someone. Maybe someone overhears a conversation between Roger and Bree, and they're like, "We're gonna hurt these people." I don't know, but like something happens, right? My other outlandish theory of the week is that they haven't been very specific about the time that Roger and Bree have gone back. If you wanted to pay, like, it reminded me of This Is Us. Remember at hashtag spoilers at the end of the premiere of This Is Us.
Well, they've taught us about time in regards to when Claire was gone. She was gone when she comes back to Frank. She was gone as long as she was in Scotland for. So the show has established, in my opinion, that for as long as they were away, that's how much time has passed in modern day time.
Yeah, but not necessarily, right? Because
But I'm saying the show has established that.
yeah, but not necessarily. Just because time has passed in the future, like that doesn't mean that you're going to go back to that time.
Agreed.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, like, yes, time has passed. They have aged.
Yes.
But the time in which they arrive,
You're saying you would like a date.
it's not commensurate.
You would like Fiona to come in with a modern newspaper.
Yeah,
so
like-
that way you could have seen. I understand.
What I feel like.
So is this an Outlander series? Or is this
Yes,
just
what I
something
feel
new?
like is they're
Okay.
kind of like trying to make, they're going to make this big reveal. Like, ooh, it's not 1970, whatever. It's like 1985. You know, like they went way further ahead than they actually were accustomed to, you know, and I don't know. I just feel like that's coming down the
Well,
road.
I can appreciate that theory, especially after the previous episode when Claire's saying, I don't really know how to do it.
Yeah.
So I appreciate both of those things, and I find them both interesting, Blake.
Yep.
Interesting.
And then my last outlandish theory is it has to do with Mr. Bug.
Oh, wow.
As we had mentioned, this is kind of like a villain of the week type deal. And my sense from Mr. Bug is that he is... Mary showed up with her tricorn hat.
Yeah.
No, you can't. Yeah, there you go. Much better. Mr. Bug's going to show back up. Like when he says, when you got something to lose, I'll be there.
Interesting.
My sense is that he's going to show up. And if you remember from the trailer, we got a little bit of a hint from the actual trailer of the season. We got a little bit of a hint that By Ian kind of is going to be involved with somebody. And I bet Mr. Bug shows up at the end of the season to be like, I got your little girlfriend now. Like, that's a guarantee. It's a guarantee.
His creepy old man voice is unbelievable. It is unbelievable.
It was
It
good.
is so good.
Yeah.
It gives you little shivers and stuff. So I would happily have him come back just for that creepy voice alone.
Sure.
Like, I wonder if that was a big part of their audition where they were just like, give us your creepiest voice.
And here's a little bit of a microwave take.
Okay.
Okay. Little bit of a microwave take.
I don't know what a microwave tape.
Hey, it's just like it's a lukewarm take.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, this isn't Chernobyl. This isn't like red hot. It's just it's microwave dinner. Obviously, when you had mentioned Mary, the scene where Jamie is talking to Claire, and Jamie says, "Oh, just leave my bones to rot. I'm going to die on some battlefield," and blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they are definitely going to end up having this whole thing that Jamie dies at the end of the season, or at the end of the second half of this season, or whatever. Like, there is abso-freaking-lutely going to be an instance where everybody thinks Jamie is dead.
Interesting.
And I do want to make one point about all of this, because some people will mistake this as foreshadowing.
Some people, is that me?
No.
You know, people will say like some people, and you're like, oh.
What do you mean some people? What do you mean you people? I think some people will mistake this as foreshadowing, and it's not. This is just setup, right?
Okay.
The difference between setup and payoff, in comparison to foreshadowing, is vastly different. Like, it is huge in its difference. When it's just setup, it's just like this thing is being said, and then, oh yeah, we're gonna do that later on. Whereas foreshadowing is much more subtle, and it's indirect, right? It's much more. It's much less in your face, and it's more like after the film or after the show, you look back and you say, "Oh yeah, that kind of makes sense."
Sixth Sense kind of stuff. When you watch The Sixth Sense the
yes,
second
that is
time,
foreshadowing,
okay.
right? Because, and that's more of a twist. But yes, it foreshadowed the end of the twist, right? The Sixth Sense is a great one. Die Hard is a great one, right? Where when
You
John,
just like Bruce Willis.
I know, it's true. John McClane takes his feet off in the plane in the plane to rub his feet, and then he doesn't have shoes throughout the rest of the movie. And like that's foreshadowing for like what's coming when he has to step on the glass and all that other stuff.
Okay.
Other great foreshadowing would be like in Jurassic Park. I know we've talked about this before when Alan Grant tries to use the buckle as he's in the helicopter going to Isla Sorna, whatever it is. It doesn't buckle because it's two female ends.
Yes.
And the idea about Jurassic Park is that they're all female, so they can't procreate, but life finds a way.
Yes.
Right? Or, on the other hand, like, oh, you spent all this money and you spared no expense, yet you don't have the right freaking buckles, and something is going to happen here. Mm-hmm. So that is what foreshadowing is. When Jamie says, oh, if I die, just
leave
whatever,
me to the crows.
Leave me to the crows, that's set up. If I'm right, and if Jamie, in quotes, dies, foreshadowing would be the poem that he reads as the eulogy at Mrs. Bug's funeral, right? Because death does not have control over him. Everyone thinks that he's dead, but he's not.
Interesting.
See what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that is foreshadowing.
Interesting.
So I just want to throw that out there.
Love it.
So that's that. That's what I got.
We covered a lot of ground. Here in this episode. I do want to let our friends know that we will be doing a listener feedback episode, but it'll be at a later date because it is the holiday. And just like Jamie and Claire need to skedaddle with wee Ian, I didn't really give him much of a choice. He was kind of like, I don't really know if I want to go home. And Jamie's like, haha, I can't wait to see your mom's face. That was pretty much it, right?
Yeah.
He was like, I've made a home here. I'm happy here. And Jamie's like, nah, this is going to be great.
No, we're going to take you right home. We'll see what happens with
Oh
your
my
mother.
gosh.
Jenny ain't going to be happy. I'll
No.
tell you that. She is going to be
know.
all kinds of mad.
Why?
You remember that scene where
Jenny
Claire
Fraser.
when Claire came back and then she's like, Jenny does not warm up to Claire that when she came back.
Yes, when she meets Claire for the first time.
No, when Claire came back the second time.
Oh,
And then
Jenny doesn't have warm welcomes.
no,
We'll say that.
And she gave that face like this bitch has been gone for forever.
Where were you?
We're totally gonna get a this bitch face.
It's like when you lend someone something, like you lend someone a car, and then it comes back all dinged up
Yeah.
and like, what'd you do to my son?
I am. I
What's
know.
on his face?
I just know.
Here, she's gonna lick her thumb and try to wipe his face. And be like, Mom, they're tattoos. Do they even have tattoos in
You
Scotland?
don't get tattoos on your face. Wrist up. Aren't you on LinkedIn by now? You should know.
Aren't you on LinkedIn? You're only going to get an IT job because he can't see you.
Thank God for Zoom.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I am a little bit sad because I just happen to know this from news of the show that we're not getting Laura Donnelly back. They've recasted Jenny. They've recast so I'm upset that we're not going to get a this bitch face from Laura Donnelly.
She's a remarkable actress.
She's great.
Yes.
She is awesome. So we'll see.
All right.
All right, Marvin, you ready to close this bad boy out? Yes. All right, let's do it.
As always, Blake and I are ever so grateful for you and for listening. We would be even happier if you went on over to Apple Podcasts and left us a written review. Apple Podcasts, even if you listen to us on a different platform, Apple Podcasts is like the Google of podcasts. It's the most widely known one, and reviews actually help our algorithm. So whether or not you're a member at jointhenerdclan.com, know that this is another way that you can help us, and it doesn't cost a thing. Doesn't cost a thing. Just make sure that you write a review, not just doing the stars. Blake and I read them, and it warms our hearts.
Yes, it does. It does. And again, it's Mary said it talks about the algorithm, and what it most counts towards is just word of mouth. And when somebody sees that a podcast has a rating and it has written reviews, and they're both good ratings and both good written reviews, they're more likely to open the podcast up and give it a listen, simply because it's like when you are purchasing something on Amazon. Are you going to buy that thing that has one review, but it's like wicked cheap? Or are you going to buy that thing on Amazon that has 15 million reviews, but it's more expensive? And they're all good reviews. Like, that's what we're kind of getting at towards here. So please do write a written review and leave whatever amount of stars that you want for us. If you found value in our microwave takes.
Don't forget, Blake and I do have an email list that we would love for you to subscribe to. That way you know when new podcast episodes are coming out or any other fun news.
Yes.
Our friends who get our emails were alerted to us coming out with an earlier episode, for example. So to get on the email list, just send it over to maryandblake.com. A pop-up will pop up there, and you can subscribe for emails for all of our shows or just Outlander, whichever ones suit your fancy. We also want to thank our friends at jointhenerdclan.com, especially our most generous patrons, Anne, Bobby, Dana, Joanne, Kathleen, Katie, Kirsty, Lisa, Marianne, Sarah, Siobhan, Susie Q, Tara, Vicky, Angie, Barbara, Dina, Jennifer, Caitlin, Keelan, Meredith, Peg, Brenda, Brittany, Candy, Carolyn, Carrie, Christina, Christine, Jennifer, Karen, Laura, Marilyn, Norma, Shauna, Stephanie, Suzanne, and Tracy. Thank you ever so much. And friends, if you're not yet a member at jointhenerdclan.com, here's an incentive as to why you may want to join.
Oh, yes. If you didn't listen to the last episode, Mary and we were talking about the Michael Mouse thing, and then all of a sudden it just came up that we're going to make a Michael Mouse t-shirt. And then, I made some bad decisions, and I said, if we get 950 members at jointhenerdclan.com, I'm just going to give them away. To
and I got to tell you, we are now up to 890.
We're getting close. We're inching closer.
We are super, super close. And you can join for as little as $2 a month.
Yep.
Which is less than a cup of coffee. So we truly appreciate those of you who are our newest members at jointhenerdclan.com. And if you are interested in helping get to this cause of the Michael Mouse shirts being sent to you, then I say go for it. Head on over. All right. On that note, thank you all so much. Happy Independence Day for those of you who celebrate. And I'm Mary.
Screw you, England.
Oh my God. No. Love you.
Yeah, I'm saying it again.
Love you.
Saying it. It's the only time of the year I get a chance to say it, so screw you.
Okay, fine. Well, they can say it right back. My name's Mary.
My name's Blake.
And you've been listening to Outlander Cast.